Okay, I wanted to make this video for two reasons. One, to teach you how to use a histogram if you don't already know. And two, to talk about the dynamic range on the FX3, which is this camera. I took a picture today in my hotel room, and none of the lights are on in here. Took a picture of the window, obviously, you can see here. You can see that I exposed, or at least tried to expose, for the sky outside, and I wanted to retain that information without losing any information on the inside of the hotel, which is super dark. So I actually probably could have exposed a stop or two higher without losing any detail in the sky, but just for the heck of it, I exposed the way I did. I took one picture. I didn't take multiple pictures, but so here you can see the histogram right now is super underexposed. There's like not a lot of information here. This little guy right here is a little marker to show you the parts that are way too dark. You can tap that on and off. And then over here, you can tap the parts that are too hot. Right now, there is absolutely nothing too hot in this picture. If you come down here to the exposure thing, you can start raising it. You'll see the little graph move up here in the histogram. And obviously sky is blue, right? So you can see this little blue peak is getting closer to being on the exposed side. But that's not a big deal. Like you can get it pretty hot, and right now I'm gonna roll it all the way up to 2, plus 2 actually, and you can see here in the picture this red mark. That's what this little alert thing over here does. It gives you a little warning in red on the parts that are super hot. So if you come over here and you keep going, you can actually see all that information is just going to be burned to pieces, and we don't really want that. We want to retain as much information in this picture as possible. So I'm going to roll it back down to, I'm going to go with 2.1. And now I'm going to see if I can recover some of the information in the darks. Obviously, we're going to want to roll bring the shadows up, and if you're looking at your histogram, it's still way underexposed. There's a lot of stuff still hiding over here in the shadows, and we don't want that. We want to even it up a little bit. Also, with doing that, there's no detail in the sky anymore. It's still pretty white. So another way to do that is to bring the highlights down. So you bring your highlights down to a kind of little healthy area right around here. For this particular photo, actually, yours is going to be different, because I don't know your situation in your photograph. I don't know your camera settings, but this is just so you understand the histogram and the dynamic range in the FX3. So I brought the highlights down, and you can see that I have plenty of information outside where the sunlight is, and we're getting closer on the inside. But overall, if you look at the histogram, it's still very underexposed. So if we come back over here and bring the exposure up even more, almost dangerously, you can start seeing a good bit of what's going on in the rest of the room. You can see Ice Cube punching a prison guard, and you can see these curtains. Everything that was super dark you can see, other than like in here, which is probably pitch black. Not gonna worry about that. But we brought the exposure up way too high now, so outside is overexposed again, and we can play with that some more in the highlights. Bring that down until it looks a little more even. See what the inside of the room looks like. And it's still a little on the dark side. Bring it up. Find a little happy medium. And it's still a little bright outside, but it doesn't look bad. I can still see everything that's going on. So I'm gonna say that overall, the photo is evenly exposed. It's not like true HDR or anything like that, but you can see everything in the photo. You can see the room, you can see the detail, you can see inside, outside. A huge range of exposure here that we kind of evened out and made it a little more pleasant to look at. Now, there's probably going to be a good bit of noise in a photo like this when we've changed around so many things. It's always a much better idea to get your exposure right in camera, or if you can change the lighting around to make it a little more even, or before you take the picture. But we can fix some noise reduction, especially with a photo. It's a lot more difficult if you're shooting video, but when you're taking a photo, like obviously in Lightroom, you can just pop over here the noise reduction and just crank that sucker without losing any detail. And this is the final photo. I would say we're done. I mean, this is not a professional picture by any means. It's just to show you the dynamic range of the camera. Like, this held information throughout a pretty dark room versus an outside that is direct sunlight. All this outside is direct sunlight. And one other quick thing about this camera's dynamic range, I'm coming from the Scarlett W, which was the DSMC2 red line, and I sold my red to get the FX6. And when I got the FX6, I was like, yeah, this is the camera for me. It needs a little buddy, so I got the FX3. And in my opinion, this FX3 beats the Komodo, beats the Scarlett. I didn't get any hands-on experience with the other red cameras in the DSMC2 line, but this blows them out of the water. Every company like Sony, Canon, Red, they all have their own interpretation of what their dynamic range is, and in my opinion, Red's lying. It says 16 plus dynamic stops of dynamic range. Sony says the FX6 and the FX3 are 15, I believe. You'd have to be really stupid to overexpose with a Sony. Among many other reasons, Sony FX3, Sony FX9, Sony FX6, better than Red.